January 6th was a really difficult day. I remember getting up that morning and heading to the Capitol, prepared and ready to give a speech about the integrity of Arizona's election. As I was standing and giving my speech, insurrectionists were actually entering the U.S. Capitol and heading up those stairs. My biggest memory of the day is the work that law enforcement did to keep us all safe. Later, we introduced legislation to honor not just Officer Eugene Goodman, who was the person who actually saved us in the United States Senate, but all of the men and women who so bravely served and sacrificed so much that day. What I'm glad to say is that we overcame that day, and we certified the results of the election, and our government has continued on. And that's why it's so important that we retain the integrity of elections throughout Arizona and other parts of the country. But Arizona, I think, provides a good example of how to run a clean election. This pandemic just has hit Arizona and our entire country really hard. And I wanted to make sure that we were able to support families and businesses as we were getting through this really tough time. And we wanted to make sure we had money for testing and for vaccinations. I encourage everyone to go get vaccinated if you haven't already. I already have my booster, and I am so grateful for it. But we also did things like help mayors of cities and towns and counties have the dollars they needed to pay for fire and healthcare for people in emergencies. We also were working really hard to make sure that schools had the broadband they needed so that kids could get access to the internet when they weren't able to physically be at school. So it was a big package, but we really found that we needed to help people in all parts of the community in their life. At the beginning of this year, I was appointed as chair of the committee that works on the border. And I was really proud to do that because I feel like the Senate needs to have a border state senator chairing that committee. Folks know I was born and raised in Tucson, so for me, it was right at home. And I've been working this year with my colleague, Senator Cornyn, also a border senator, on legislation that helps address the crisis that we in Arizona have been facing for decades. I even had an opportunity to bring Senator Cornyn out to Arizona to take a look at what is happening on our border, which is a little bit different than what's happening on the Texas border. And we're going to keep working together to achieve more reforms to help solve this crisis on our border and hold the administration accountable. I paid a lot of attention to ensuring that our border crossings in Arizona were taken care of. They need a lot of expansion and upgrades. And I'm just thrilled that we got a huge infusion of dollars to upgrade at Douglas and San Luis so that people and goods can come back and forth across the border. It'll be great for Arizona's economy. It was just a real honor to lead the negotiations on our bipartisan infrastructure law. What's exciting about this law, in addition to the fact that it creates thousands of jobs in Arizona and all across the country, is it's the largest, most historic investment in infrastructure in our nation in over a generation. So it's going to help repair crumbling bridges, but also bring broadband to communities all across the state, help us deal with drought and wildfire. The list is just endless of the things that it will do for us in Arizona. And it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't been committed to a bipartisan process that brought Republicans and Democrats together to solve a problem. And what I'm perhaps most proud of is we did it all without raising taxes on everyday Arizonans. We worked really hard together to get the CHIPS bill passed, and it's a bill that creates more investment in building microchips right here in Arizona. And this will create thousands of jobs. In fact, right after we passed the legislation, Intel announced a huge investment that will bring thousands more high-tech jobs to Arizona. What's also really great about these microchips is it helps us make sure that we're building cars and computers and all the things that we need to be independent and move into the future. So even before the pandemic, I was working closely with our veteran service organizations in the VA to create telehealth opportunities in Arizona. So many of Arizona's veterans live in rural communities, and they just can't easily get to the VA hospital. So we created this thing called an Atlas Pod. It's in Wickenburg, and it's a safe and secure place with internet access where a veteran can reach out and have an appointment with his or her medical professional, and they can do it without having to drive all the way to Phoenix or all the way to Tucson. Part of Senator McCain's legacy in the Senate, and it is a big legacy, but part of his legacy was this work that he did on Rio Reimagined. It's this plan where he brought all stakeholders together to connect all the river communities throughout metropolitan Phoenix. And I wanted to make sure that we continued that effort. So I introduced bipartisan legislation to support the Rio Reimagined project, and I'm looking forward to getting this done.